Hi, Andy XL back with another NFXL podcast ahead of the 2026 draft. And here's my mock draft 3.0. Now, I've said before, I don't generally play the guessing game of mock drafts, but just for fun, let's have a go, shall we? So, pick one that belongs to the Las Vegas Raiders, where I have them taking Fernando Mendoza, the quarterback out of Indiana. No surprises there. Unless Mendoza has a disastrous pro day on the 1st of April, that is surely what will happen as the Vegas Raiders take their quarterback. Pick two belongs to the New York Jets. I have them taking Arvell Reese, the linebacker out of Ohio State. With Mendoza gone and me not being a fan of Ty Simpson going early in this draft, I have the Jets taking one of the five premier talents in this draft that is Arvell Reese. They could deploy him on the outside of the D line, or let's throw a left field thought out there. Reese plays inside linebacker and Jamien Sherwood moves to safety where he played in college. However, they deploy Reese, who is one of the surefire drafts of this class. Um, the Jets will be getting a great pick and probably a rock of their defense for years to come. Which brings us on to pick three and the Arizona Cardinals, where I have them taking Francis Mauigoa, the offensive tackle out of Miami. Now, I know the Cardinals have added Elijah Wilkinson um, to, on the opposite tackle position to Paris Johnson, but Mauigoa would represent an upgrade on Wilkinson in all likelihood, allowing Wilkinson to be used more as a utility O lineman for a team that needs O line help across the board. Pick four belongs to the Tennessee Titans, and I have them taking David Bailey, the edge rusher out of Texas Tech. Bailey has emerged as not only the top edge rusher in this class, but is the second of my five elite talents in this draft. The Titans have multiple needs, but improving their pass rush is certainly one of them, and Bailey will improve them significantly in that regard. Pick five brings me to the first of four trades I have in the opening round, and this trade involves the Cincinnati Bengals trading up from slot 10 to 5 with the New York Giants. So the Giants drop back to 10. And once they've moved up to 5, the Bengals take Jeremiah Love, the running back out of Notre Dame. No knock on Chase Brown here, who has done a superb work for the Bengals, but Brown is a swifter, smaller, niftier back who has probably been asked to carry too much of the workload in the last couple of seasons. Now, Love for me is the outright best player in this draft, so trading up to get him makes perfect sense. Some might question why would you take a running back when you also already got a perfectly adequate one, but just imagine adding Love to give the Bengals the best running back duo in the league alongside Chase Brown, and then Joe Burrow having Jamar Chase and T. Higgins as the best pair of wide receivers in the league as well, giving the Bengals the best and most balanced offense in the league for next season. Which brings us to their divisional rivals, the Cleveland Browns, at the sixth pick. And I have them taking Carnell Tate, a wide receiver out of Ohio State, a fan pleasing addition of a Buckeye to the Browns roster that also gives them the top end wide receiver quality they badly need at the same time. I may not be convinced that Tate is going to be truly elite at the next level, but for the Browns, this is a case of needs must that leads them to go early for Tate as their leading wide receiver. Quick sip of coffee. And then on to the Washington Commanders at pick seven, where they take another Ohio State Buckeye, Caleb Downs, the safety. Downs is another of my five elite talents in this draft class, and plugging him alongside the newly acquired Nick Cross will give the Commanders the best safety pairing in the league. New Orleans go at pick eight, and I have them taking Reuben Bain, the edge guy out of Miami. David Bailey may have taken over as the top edge rusher from Bain in this draft, but Bain remains a high quality candidate, and the Saints will be adding another fine player to their edge rushing unit by taking him here. Pick nine, the Kansas City Chiefs get to go way earlier than they have done in the past few seasons. And at nine, I have them taking a cornerback, Mansour Delaney out of LSU. The Chiefs need to retool in a number of places following their poor season of 2025, but having lost Trent McDuffie and Jalen Watson, the cornerback is a huge need for them. Now, Delaney looks like being the first cornerback off the board in this draft, and the safest option considering Jamod McCoy's injury recovery concerns. So it makes perfect sense for the Chiefs to take him here. Excuse my tickly throat. Pick 10 then. The Giants have traded back here. This is the trade with Cincinnati, so this is the flip side of it. And at pick 10 then, the Giants take Spencer Fano, the offensive line out of Utah. Having traded back and gained future draft capital in doing so, the Giants still get to take what they probably would have wanted to do with their first pick of this draft by adding help to their improving O-line. The jury is out on whether Fano will be a tackle or guard in the NFL. Guard may well be where the Giants initially looked to deploy him, with the option for him to provide cover at tackle if needed. Pick 11 then, the Miami Dolphins, and I have them taking Jordan Tyson, a wide receiver out of Arizona State. Having cleared out much of their existing talent, the Dolphins are in rebuild mode and have needs pretty much across the board. But to keep their fan base engaged, they need to make exciting picks in this draft. And with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle gone, adding a wide receiver ticks the fan engagement box and also gives them a desperately needed weapon for new quarterback Malik Willis to work with. Which brings us on to pick 12 and the first of 2 round 1 picks for the Dallas Cowboys. And I have them using it on inside linebacker Sonny Styles. Guess what? Another Ohio State Buckeye. With the 2 best edge rushers off the board and the best running back also gone, I have the Cowboys addressing their other main need here by taking arguably the star of the 2026 NFL Combine in Sonny Styles to give them what they need at inside linebacker alongside DeMarvion Overshown. Pick 13 and the LA Rams. Right, I have them taking Makai Lemon, slot receiver, USC. Now, the Rams have one of the most complete rosters in the league, so getting to use the 13th pick in this draft that they acquired from the Falcons seems almost unfair. As a result of having few, if any, holes to fill on their roster, they can pretty much cherry pick what they do. But slot receiver is a position they could upgrade at by taking one here. It also future-proofs them at receiver, with Davante Adams being 33 years of age now. I'm a huge fan of Makai Lemon and think he could lift what is already a fearsome passing attack to even more stratospheric levels. Time for a quick sip of coffee. Before I announce that the Baltimore Ravens at pick 14 take Oliver Vega-Ione, the guard out of Penn State. Having lost star centre Tyler Linderbaum, the interior of the Ravens O-line, which may have needed looking at anyway, certainly needs to be a priority for the Ravens in this draft. Ione was the best guard in this class prior to Spencer Fano's potentially move inside, and indeed he may still be the best in class. So the Ravens get what they need here, as this is too early to look to replace Linderbaum at the heart of the O-line. Pick 15, Tampa Bay Buccaneers take Akeem Mesidor, edge out of Miami. Edge or inside linebacker looks to be the Bucs' primary needs. With recent styles already gone at inside linebacker, I have them taking the third edge guy in this class here. Mesidor has had a superb senior year for the Hurricanes and moves across Florida to bolster the Bucs' pass rushing attack. At pick 16, the fifth and final elite talent in this class comes off the board in Kenyon Sadiq, the tight end out of Oregon, who is by far the best tight end candidate in his class and looks likely to follow Brock Bowers, Tyler Warren, and Colster Loveland as tight ends who come out in the first year and immediately become amongst the leading tight ends in the league. As such, he could well go earlier, but has fallen to the tight end needy Jets in this mock. Excuse me. He could well push up towards 1,000 yards in his first season, and having missed out on the top 3 wide receivers in this class, gives the Jets an option to take some of the opposing defense's focus away from Garrett Wilson. Pick 17 is where the Detroit Lions join the draft, and I have them taking Monroe Freeling, an offensive tackle out of Georgia. Freeling is moving up draft boards as a result of Spencer Fano's potential move to guard, as he's potentially now the second offensive tackle in his class. The Lions have seen the edge and inside linebackers they may have looked at gone, so looking to play Freeling opposite Penei Sewell might be a good move here, as Larry Borum, who was added via free agency, has been a career backup, so it would look like Freeling will give them will be their starting option they need here. 18, Minnesota Vikings take Dylan Thieneman, the safety out of Oregon. This is too early for the Vikings to take a defensive tackle or centre, so I have them addressing their needs at safety in the wake of Harrison Smith's retirement by taking Thieneman as the second safety off the board. Pick 19, and here comes my second trade. And this is the Chicago Bears moving up to take the pick off the Carolina Panthers. And once they've done that, they take Jamod McCoy, the cornerback out of Tennessee. Now, the ball hawking Bears topped the leagues in picks last season, but actually ranked 25th overall for pass defense. So the secondary certainly needed looking at this off season. And having lost safety Kevin Bard and corner Nashon Wright from that unit, the need becomes even more pressing. Hence why they trade up to take a cornerback here. Now, talent-wise, McCoy is the best cornerback in this class, but the ACL injury that saw him miss all of last college season has put a question mark over his ability to come back to what he was pre that injury. He may show that he is over that at the Tennessee Pro Day in a couple of days on the 31st of March, but for me, he would be another of the elite talents in this class, but for that injury question mark. So the potential upside here is huge for the cornerback needy Bears. Pick 20, the Dallas Cowboys gets their second go of the opening round, but at this pick they take Cassius Howell, edge out of Texas A&M. Having addressed their inside linebacker need with pick 11, they now look to add another edge rusher to fill the Micah Parsons size hole they left in that area when they traded him away last season. Howell is the best pure pass rusher in this class, or the next best one anyway, so maybe a better fit for what the Cowboys need than the alternative, which might be Keldrick Falk. Right, another quick sip of coffee. Before we move on to the Pittsburgh Steelers at pick 21, where I have them taking Omar Cooper, wide receiver out of Indiana. Yes, the Steelers had DK Metcalf and the newly added Michael Pittman, but adding Omar Cooper to play in the slot like he did at Indiana last season could have a similar effect for the Steelers as the Rams get from adding Makai Lemon. Having missed on the first two guards in this class and apparently still operating on the basis Aaron Rodgers will be back at quarterback, they go slot receiver here, giving Rodgers a trio of talented wide receivers, which would certainly entice him into giving it one more year. Pick 22 is where the LA Chargers come in, and I have them taking a cornerback out of Clemson in Avion Terrell. The Chargers are another team with only a few needs. Edge, wide receiver, and safety are amongst those. But having lost Dante Jackson, I have them filling the cornerback need by taking Terrell here. Philadelphia come to the party at pick 33, and they go small school out of Toledo with a safety, Emmanuel McNeil Warren. Now, Reed Blankenship's departure leaves a hole to fill in what was a strong Eagles secondary, and filling that hole to keep that pass defense amongst the best in the league is what I have them doing here. Pick 24, we come back to the Cleveland Browns for a second go in this round, and this is where I have them taking the edge out of Auburn at Keldrick Falk. Cleveland went wide receiver at pick 6. Now they look to boost their defense by adding Falk to support Myles Garrett and challenge Alex Wright for the other starting defensive end spot on the Browns roster. Pick 25 is where the Carolina Panthers land, having traded back with Chicago. And as the Giants did earlier, the Panthers trade back and still get to address one of their principal needs by taking the first player at a position in the draft. In their case, taking Peter Woods as the first defensive tackle off the board out of Clemson. Woods, like Mansour Delaney at cornerback, may not be the most talented defensive tackle in class, but does not have the injury question marks that the alternative Caleb Banks has to answer. On to Buffalo at pick 26, and I have them going edge again, another edge rusher, and this guy out of Clemson is TJ Parker. With the Bills seemingly set to move from a 4-3 to a 3-4 front under their new head coach, and with Joey Bosa having not been retained, the Bills could do with more edge rushers to fit their new scheme. Parker looks like a good fit for what they need here. Pick 27 and the San Francisco 49ers take Colton Hood, the cornerback out of Tennessee. Pass defense was the biggest weakness for the 49ers last season, so adding competition at starting cornerback seems to make good sense for them here. Now, Hood may be a rough diamond with some developmental needs, but has the potential and with the right coaching to become a very, very good cornerback for the 49ers going forward. Pick 28. The Las Vegas Raiders trade up from pick 36 back into round one here. Sorry, yeah, Las Vegas take the pick off Houston. I'm getting it, just not confusing myself. So Houston trade out around one and let Vegas back in. And this is where Vegas take Blake Miller, an offensive tackle out of Clemson. The Raiders have made some strong free agent moves to improve what was a woeful O-line last season, but right tackle is still a position of need. So they trade back up into round one for a talented right tackle in Miller, who can further enhance the protection for rookie quarterback Mendoza and to get ahead of another right tackle needy team in divisional rivals, the Chiefs. Which brings us on to the Chiefs at 29 for their second pick of the opening round. And even though Miller goes to the Raiders, the Chiefs still take a right tackle here in Iheanacho as a replacement for the departed Jawan Taylor as they continue to address their needs and to protect the key to it all for them, Patrick Mahomes. Miami come back for a second pick in this opening round at pick 30, and I have them taking Kevin Concepcion, the slot receiver at Texas A&M. I said earlier the Dolphins need to use their early picks to re-enthuse their fan base as they start a huge rebuild. And this is another move to do that by adding another much-needed receiver option by taking clearly the best remaining option at slot receiver in Concepcion. 31, pick 31 is New England's, and I have them taking Caleb Banks, the defensive tackle out of Florida. I said earlier that Banks is probably the best defensive tackle in this class, but persistent foot injuries, including another one picked up in warm-ups at the combine, ironically, put his draft status in question. On the basis he is able to provide reassurance through those foot injuries, he is certainly worth a first-round pick. And like Jamal McCoy, may have been one of the magnificent seven talents in this draft, but for the injury concerns. I have the Patriots taking the long term view here that they can let Banks get fully healthy and recovered and then plug him in as a hugely talented and effective presence between Milton Williams and Christian Barmore on their defensive front. Which brings us to the final pick of the opening round and my fourth and final trade of the opening round. Another team trading up into round one and taking the pick off the Seattle Seahawks. Come up from pick 39 is the Cleveland Browns coming back for a third go in round one. And here we go. They take Ty Simpson, the quarterback of Alabama, as they take a third quarterback in the last two drafts, as they continue to look for a long term answer at the most important position on any team's roster. With them unlikely to make the postseason in 2026, they can give Simpson time to develop, um, which he may need due to his lack of starts at the college level. That may be behind either Deshaun Watson or Shedeur Sanders for at least the first half of the 2026 season. If Watson and or Sanders play well, then they can give Simpson even more time. If they don't play well, then maybe they put Simpson in towards the end of the regular season to see what they've got there, how he's coming on. Now, having said that, I'm not convinced about Simpson and personally do not see him worthy of a round one pick. But the Browns are that desperate to find an answer to their quarterback issues. I can see them making another bold move to try and find a solution here by trading back up into the opening round. Right, I'll move on now to the teams that didn't have a pick in round one in this mock. And the first of those comes at pick 36 following their trade back with Vegas and the Houston Texans. And at 36, I have them taking offensive tackle Caden Proctor out of Alabama. Houston traded back from the opening round with a view that no teams between pick 29 and this pick would take left. Not many teams anyway would take a left tackle with both Proctor and Blake Miller as options for them. With Miller gone, they get left with Caden Proctor. So they've lost nothing in terms of making this pick. And Proctor looks like good value at this pick. And they've also gained future draft capital by doing so. I think Proctor in this situation would immediately challenge for the starting role and further bolster an O-line that badly needs to improve its pass protection in particular. And just for good measure, the Texans get another pick at pick 38, so two close together. And with that pick, I would have them taking Zion Young, the edge out of Missouri. The Texans have two picks, as I say, early in the second round, as a result of the trade back I've put in here. And with the second one, add a further edge rushing weapon to an already strong unit and potentially giving them a long-term succession plan for Danielle Hunter, who will turn 32 early in the 2026 season. Which brings us on to pick 39, which is where Seattle have ended up having traded back from the 32 spot with Cleveland. And at 39, they take Jadarian Price, the running back out of Notre Dame. Seattle's trade back is another made on the basis it comes at no cost, as they still do what they would probably have done at pick 32 and gain some extra draft capital for future years at the same time. Taking Price as the Kenneth Walker replacement to operate alongside Zach Charbonnet gives them the second running back off the board in this draft, which, given their draft position, is the best they could hope for in terms of replacing Walker. Now, Price's highlight reel shows plenty of Walker-like runs to the outside, so this looks to be a pretty good fit to me. Which brings us on to the team to start. The next team to join the draft party would be at pick 47 and would be the Indianapolis Colts, where I have them taking R. Mason Thomas, the edge rusher out of Oklahoma. Now, having to wait until the middle of round 2 means the Colts need to look at who is the best player available to them at a position of need for them. Inside linebacker may be another option for them here, but I have them going edge. For a team that logged just 37 sacks last season and has also lost Kwity Paye to free agency. Along with the newly added free agent Arden Key, Mason Thomas could more than replace Kwity Paye and boost their pass rush significantly going forward. Which brings us on to pick 48, which is where Atlanta would come in for the first time. I have them taking Jeremy Bernard, wide receiver out of Alabama. Jahan Dotson, who's been added as a free agent, offered very little as the wide receiver 3 for the Eagles. So why would the Falcons be happy with him as the wide receiver 2 opposite Drake London? Hence why I have them going for one of the most solid wide receiver 2 options in this draft in Jeremy Bernard. Now, after pick 48, we've moved down to pick 52 for the next team to have their first pick of the draft. They'd be the Green Bay Packers, where I have them taking guard Chase Bisontis out of Texas A&M, with Sean Ryan likely to move to centre to replace Elgton Jenkins. The Packers need a right guard to replace Ryan, and Bisontis can certainly play right guard. In fact, he can play either guard position, so it seems a good fit there. Next team to join the draft would be at pick 56 and would be the Jacksonville Jaguars. I have them taking Jake Golday, the inside linebacker out of Cincinnati. Edge is a possible need for the Jags, but I think inside linebacker may trump that need. And by the time we get to the Jags pick, the inside linebacker class may be thinning out. Hence why I have them taking Golday as one of the last good options at this position. And then the last team to get a pick would come in at pick 62, the Denver Broncos. The Broncos will be the last team, as I say, to join the party. They do not have a long needs list for me. Safety, tight end, and edge and guard may be the positions they look for here. Safety and tight end may well be options for them, especially if Eli Stowers has not gone at tight end. But I have them taking edge rusher Romello Height out of Texas Tech as the replacement for John Franklin Myers. So that's my mock draft 3.0. Hope you enjoyed that. And I'll be back with further pieces building up to the draft every day between now and kickoff time, which is getting it's 3.5 weeks away now. So it's getting there pretty soon. See you later.